Putin never walks with both his hands swinging, unlike in this video.
All Muslims of the world run.
Look closely at the president's gait. It is completely distinct.
Soviets may have been fairly quick to acknowledge the accident because evidence.
The most powerful armed army of our time. The most dangerous mafias in the world. Geniuses rejected by the state. The country with the largest land area in the world, occupying 1/8 of the planet's land mass, possessing colossal mineral and oil resources. And at the head of this splendor and madness stands the most talked about leader on Earth. Or is there more than one? I've prepared an iceberg for you on Russia. I've taken both generally condemned facts and, delving deeper into the process, reached the most insane theories. Sit back and listen to the end. Siloviki and Russian oligarchs, or as they are commonly referred to, the thieves of the 1990s. Siloviki is a collective informal term used in Russia to refer to high-ranking representatives of the security and law enforcement agencies who wield significant political and economic influence in the country. The word itself comes from the phrase security structures or security ministries. It is not an official position, but rather a political science concept describing an influential group within the Russian elite. Siloviki play an important but dirty role in both political and individual activities. There are many well-known cases in Russia where the children of wealthy parents, those very thieves of the 90s, committed crimes and got away with it, with the cases being closed and the children sent away. In Russia, there are many well-known cases where the children of wealthy parents, the very thieves of the 1990s, committed crimes and got away with it, with the cases being closed and sent to the archives. And it's not just a simple bribe to the police or a judge, it's all about the security forces. Rumor has it that they can close any case, but of course not for a small fee. Lost cosmonauts, or phantom cosmonauts, is one of the most famous and enduring conspiracy theories of the Cold War era. According to this theory, Yuri Gagarin was not the first man in space. He was preceded by several other Soviet cosmonauts whose flights ended in disaster and whose names and the facts of their missions were erased from history by the Soviet authorities so as not to tarnish the USSR's image in the space race. Proponents of the theory claim that in the late 1950s and early 1960s, the USSR made several unsuccessful manned launches, resulting in the deaths of cosmonauts who burned up in the atmosphere or their ships being lost in space. The main evidence is alleged radio intercepts made by two Italian radio amateurs, brothers Achille and Giovanni Battista Giudica Cordiglia. In the late 1950s, they set up their own listening station called Torbert in the suburbs of Turin. The brothers claimed to have recorded several signals from Soviet spacecraft. November 1960, recording of an SOS signal that grew weaker and weaker as if the ship were moving away. February 1961, recording of the heartbeat and intermittent breathing of a cosmonaut who was allegedly dying in orbit. May 1961, the most famous recording, a woman's voice in Russian conveying an alarming message and apparently describing a fire on board before the connection is lost. These recordings were widely circulated in the Western press, creating an image of a ruthless Soviet regime. The Kishtim Dwarf, or Alyoshenka, is one of the most famous and mysterious stories of post-Soviet Russia, connected with the discovery of the mummified remains of a humanoid creature. This story has been surrounded by numerous rumors, versions, and hoaxes, but to this day there is no clear explanation. The story began in May 1996 in the village of Kaulionovi, near the city of Kishtim in the Chelyabinsk region. A local resident, Pensioner Tamara Vasilievna Prosperina, who suffered from mental illness, found a tiny living creature in the forest or cemetery, according to her stories. She brought it home, named it Alyoshenka, and began to care for it like a child, feeding it cottage cheese and sweets. Description of Alyoshenka from eyewitness accounts. Height, about 25 centimeters. Appearance, gray body, hairless, with large eyes and a helmet-shaped or pear-shaped head. Distinguishing features, no genitals, navel, or ears. The mouth was a small opening. The creature made quiet whistling sounds. The body of Alyoshenka was discovered in Prosperina's house by a man named Vladimir Nerdinov, who, during questioning in another case, theft of electrical wire, said that he had hidden the mummy of an alien in his garage. He took the dried-up body, intending to sell it. The mummy was seized by investigator Vladimir Bendlin, who began an unofficial investigation as the authorities did not pursue the case. Bendlin made a video recording of the mummy, thanks to which its appearance became known to the general public. Perimeter, better known in the West as Dead Hand, was a unique and one of the most sinister military systems developed in the Soviet Union during the Cold War. It was an automated nuclear retaliation system designed to ensure the launch of Soviet intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, in the event that all communication channels and command posts of the USSR were destroyed as a result of an enemy's first nuclear strike. Purpose. The main task of Perimeter was to ensure that, even in the event of the complete destruction of the country's political and military leadership, as well as most of the missile force's operators, the Soviet Union would be able to launch a massive nuclear counterstrike. This was intended to serve as an absolute deterrent. Cold War context. In the 1980s, at the height of the Cold War, there was deep mutual distrust between the USSR and the US. The development of precision weapons, cruise missiles, and, most importantly, the concept of a decapitating first strike, the ability to destroy an enemy's nuclear arsenal before it could respond, forced the Soviet leadership to look for ways to guarantee retaliation. The idea was to create a system that would not depend on the human factor in a critical situation. Perimeter was not a system capable of striking without human involvement. Rather, it was a backup, automated command system that could initiate the process of launching missiles in conditions of complete information vacuum and absence of commands from the highest echelons of power. Main components and principle of operation. Nuclear explosion detection sensors. A network of seismic, radiation, and other sensors throughout the USSR capable of detecting multiple nuclear explosions and assessing their scale. Automated command missiles, special missiles equipped with powerful radio transmitters. If the system was activated, these missiles were launched and transmitted launch codes and commands to all remaining missile silos and mobile launchers on combat alert. Activation criteria. The system did not launch automatically after detecting explosions. It only began analyzing the situation when several conditions were met simultaneously. Detection of nuclear explosions on the territory of the USSR. Loss of communication with the high command for a certain period of time. Confirmation of explosion data from several sources. The topic of Soviet psychotronic experiments is a complex tangle of real scientific research, rumors, Cold War propaganda, and outright hoaxes. According to rumors, secret research institutes of the KGB and the Ministry of Defense conducted large-scale work on the study of parapsychology and the creation of psychological or psychotronic weapons capable of controlling people's minds and behavior from a distance. Although there is no reliable evidence of the existence of fully fledged psi weapons, the fact that research was conducted in this area is beyond doubt. The interest of the Soviet secret services and military in parapsychology was largely a reaction to similar programs in the United States, the most famous of which was the CIA's MK-Ultra. In the context of the arms race, both superpowers feared falling behind in any potentially breakthrough area. The concept of the Psi Gap emerged, analogous to the missile gap, the fear that the enemy would be the first to create weapons based on extrasensory abilities. Officially, in the USSR, with its materialistic ideology, parapsychology was considered a pseudoscience. Therefore, research was conducted under the strictest secrecy and disguised as scientific disciplines, biophysics, special fields, and research into the hidden reserves of man. 1. Telepathy and remote viewing. This was one of the highest priority areas. The goal was to develop the ability to obtain information without the use of technical means. Military intelligence. Viewing secret enemy facilities, military bases, submarines, missile silos. Counterintelligence. Identifying foreign agents, reading minds during interrogations. Communication. Creating a system of uninterrupted communication, for example with submarines, that cannot be intercepted. To this end, people who demonstrated unusual abilities, psychics, were selected and experiments were conducted on the transmission of mental images, numbers, and text over distance. 2. Psychokinesis, telekinesis. Research in this area was aimed at studying the possibility of influencing physical objects with the power of thought. The most famous subject of such research was Ninel Kulagina. In the 1960s and 1970s, in Leningrad laboratories, she demonstrated the ability to move small objects, a compass needle, matches, a pen cap, without touching them. Dozens of scientists studied her phenomenon, and although skeptics suspected her of using hidden strings and other tricks, many researchers were convinced of the reality of her abilities. From a military point of view, psychokinesis could be used to disable enemy electronics. 3. Psychotronic generators and remote influence. This is the most sinister and mythologized part of the program. It involved the creation of technical devices capable of influencing the human psyche and physiology from a distance. Objectives: to cause panic, apathy, depression, or, conversely, uncontrollable aggression in enemy soldiers, to influence the decision-making of enemy political leaders, to deteriorate the health of entire population groups. Technologies. According to rumors, experiments were conducted using ultra-high-frequency UHF, infrasound, and torsion fields, the latter being a purely pseudoscientific concept. Results. There is no evidence that a working device was created. However, rumors about psi generators gave rise to mass paranoia in post-Soviet Russia and an entire industry selling protective amulets and devices. Secret centers and military units. The research was not conducted in one place, but was spread across various institutes and departments. Brain Institute, Leningrad, study of brain biopotentials and phenomenal abilities. Institutes of the Academy of Sciences, research in the field of biophysics and neurophysiology. Closed research institutes of the KGB and the Ministry of Defense. Military Unit 1003, the most famous unit, created under the General Staff in the late 1980s under the leadership of Lieutenant General Alexei Savin. Its official task was to study the hidden superpowers of humans. After the unit was disbanded in the 2000s, Savin himself wrote several books in which he claimed that his psychic subordinates had successfully carried out combat missions, for example, locating mines in Afghanistan or helping to search for missing ships. In summary, the following conclusions can be drawn. Research was conducted the Soviet military and political leadership did allocate funds to study parapsychological phenomena, fearing that they would fall behind the United States. The results were insignificant. The programs did not lead to the creation of any technologies or weapons. At best, some anomalous phenomena were recorded that could neither be explained nor consistently reproduced. The Vladimir Putin look-alike theory is one of the most persistent and widely discussed conspiracy theories in modern Russia and beyond. It posits that one or more people resembling the real president periodically participate in public events, meetings, and trips. Although official authorities categorically deny these rumors, proponents of the theory continually find new evidence by comparing photographs and videos from different years. All this evidence boils down to an analysis of photographs and videos in which proponents note physical and behavioral discrepancies. Ear shape. This is one of the main arguments. It is believed that the human ear is unique, like a fingerprint, and does not change with age. Enthusiasts create entire collages comparing the earlobes, helixes, and anti-helixes of the ears of different Putins, claiming that they are not identical. Chin and cheekbones. In some photographs, the chin appears more massive and square, while in others it appears more pointed. Variations in the shape of the cheekbones and jawline are also noted. Wrinkles and moles. Variations in the placement and depth of wrinkles, especially crow's feet around the eyes and folds on the forehead, are noted. A mole on the cheek sometimes disappears or appears. Nose and lip shape. It is claimed that the width of the bridge of the nose, the shape of the tip of the nose, and the fullness of the lips vary from photo to photo. Height and build. Sometimes it seems that Putin appears taller or shorter during meetings with the same people. Behavioral differences. Knowledge of German. The real Putin is known to speak German fluently. There have been instances where he used a translator during meetings with German politicians, even for simple phrases, which proponents of the theory interpret as a sign of a double who doesn't speak the language.
Ich weiß, Sie können mich verstehen, ne? Ich würde gerne die Staatsangehörigkeit bekommen. Ich möchte gerne
Behavior. Differences in gait, gestures, and facial expressions have been noted. One Putin is constrained, reserved, and walks tensely, which is associated with his real image. The other is more energetic, relaxed, and gesticulates actively. Watches. A classic example is Vladimir Putin wearing a watch on his right wrist. There have been instances where the watch has been photographed on his left wrist, which immediately sparked a wave of rumors, although this could also be explained by a reflection in the frame. Awareness. In some interviews, he allegedly became confused about the details of his own biography or famous events, which has also been attributed to a poorly prepared double. In conclusion, the Putin double theory remains an unproven conspiracy theory. Despite the abundance of evidence uncovered by enthusiasts, none of it is irrefutable. However, the very popularity of this theory speaks volumes about the closed nature of the Russian political system and the deep mistrust of some sections of society toward official information. We've covered the main iceberg of Russia. There's still a wealth of information, secrets, and classified data that I'm ready to share with you. If you liked the video, be sure to subscribe and leave a comment below to let me know if we should delve deeper and make a second part of the iceberg.